Come with me to an alternate universe. And just like that, we're in a new universe.
I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. What? Are you sure?
Imagine waking up in a world that looks just like your own, but something feels off. Could you be trapped in a parallel universe without even knowing it? What if the life you're living isn't the only one you have? And when you make a choice, does another version of you choose differently in a reality just beyond your reach? In the shadowy realms of quantum physics, where reality bends and dimensions blur, some believe in the existence of alternate realities just a heartbeat away from our own. Across the globe, ordinary people have encountered the extraordinary, glimpses into worlds where everything is just slightly different. Today on the Creepy Collective, we delve into the eerie experiences of those who claim to have crossed over. Join us as we hear from TikTok creators who ventured into these alternate realities. Stay close, creepy crew, and ask yourself, if you were trapped in a parallel world, would you even know it? If you were to die in this reality, would the sorrow of leaving your loved ones behind haunt you in the next? Or would you simply let go, moving forward as if nothing had changed? Let us know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. And as always, stay creepy.
So when you make a decision, you come to a crossroads in your life, you've got to make a decision. Do I get married? Do I get divorced? Do I take this job? Do I go to this school? You're trying to make a decision which road you want to go down. We have these crossroads. And you know, either way you choose, your life is going to be different, won't it? If you marry this person, or you don't, or if you get a divorce, or if I choose this job, should I move? Your life will be different no matter which direction you go. So you're trying to make a decision, and you have a lot of energy going into making that decision. Then you finally decide, okay, this is the way I'm going to go. All right, what happens to the other alternate decision that you could have taken? What happens to that? It also is created. And another you is living out that other decision. And that gets a little complicated for people. You're living on this life and you're focusing on your decision you made, but another you split off over here and is living that other life. And we're not supposed to know about it because it would be too complicated. That's what they say, you can't know it all. Imagine how complicated it would be if you knew about these other parts, having all these other experiences.
One time, me and two of my friends were stuck in a time loop within an alternate dimension. All right, so this was like 3 years ago. My friend asked me if I wanted to go get a drink with her at the brewery across the street from our job, and I was like, sure. Friend A, my coworker, we're gonna call her Catherine, and friend B that she introduced me to, we're gonna call her Jocelyn. So she tells me and Jocelyn we should go back to her house with her that night, and Jocelyn happened to be there with her newborn baby and ex-wife. So this brewery allowed like kids and dogs to be there. So yes, she had her baby. Me, Catherine, and Jocelyn were like, hey, would you guys be cool with watching the baby while we go get Dutch Bros, right? They said they were cool with it. So we get in the car. The only open Dutch Bros is 30 minutes away. As soon as we're about to get our drinks, they call us and they're mad. And they're like, you guys need to come back home. Hurry up, blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay. So we turn around and we're on our way back. And all of a sudden, the road glitches. And I was like, did you guys see me get off on an exit? And they're like, no, we've been going straight the whole time. That's why I'm confused. So I just keep driving straight because I have no other choice. I'm hoping the road is going to start looking more familiar. And all of a sudden, we're back on the same freeway that we were already on. It just turns back into it. And we're like, okay. I had 6 miles till empty, so I was getting very, very nervous. Finally, Jocelyn goes, haven't we passed Consumnes River already, like once or twice? And Catherine goes, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I still have my GPS pulled up because I also saw the exit pass twice. The exit was Consumnes River, then it was Sheldon, then it was Consumnes River, and then it was Sheldon. Those two exits just kept repeating themselves so that we couldn't make it to the last one, which was supposed to be Laguna, which is the exit we needed to get off on. We all start screaming and crying. I mean, there is utter fear in the car because these exits are repeating like we are stuck in a time loop. So I tell them, no matter what we do, I'm getting off on the next exit because I'm going to run out of gas. Now Jocelyn starts crying because she's like, I'm never gonna see my baby again. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. Go to part 2 because this is getting long. The time my friends and I got stuck in a time loop in an alternate dimension, part 2. So at this point, we're all screaming, crying, freaking out. One more important detail I forgot to mention was that there was no sign of human life anywhere. We were the only car on the entire road as soon as those exits started to glitch. And when we got off on the exit, all of the buildings around us were ill lit. And there was just this overarching feeling like we weren't supposed to be there. This looks like the upside down from Stranger Things. We expect the next exit at this point to then be Sheldon Boulevard, but to our surprise, it says P Street. Don't worry if you're not from SAC, I'm gonna put you on game. This is where we were when we started at Catherine's house, okay? This was the only open Dutch Bros, so we went from where I just showed you to here to get Dutch Bros. Took about 30 minutes. The two exits start repeating right about here, right before Elk Grove. So because the roads kept glitching, it said the next exit was P Street, which is back here, which is behind where we already were down there in Elk Grove. But as I took the P Street exit, it said that I was on Arden Way, which is even further back. We're at this gas station right here. We're driving and we'll get a certain distance forward, and then everything we had just seen duplicated itself and we saw it again. So at this point, I pull over. All of our phones still have 0 bars. At this point, we're accepting fate. So we pull over and we are parked to us for what feels like maybe 15 minutes. Mind you, at this point, it's like 12:30 a.m. and I tell them I have a weird feeling that no matter how long it takes us to get home, we are gonna get home at 4:44 in the morning. At a certain point, I try again after about 15 minutes now, and somehow, as I'm taking these back streets, I'm actually getting somewhere. And we finally find a way to get back on the freeway. It tells us all something different. On Catherine's GPS, it says we should take an hour to get home. On my GPS, it says we should only take around 6 minutes. And I think Jocelyn's phone still had no bars.
All right, so at this point, we start driving. I predict we're gonna get there by 4:44 a.m. At this point, it's like 1:30. We're driving for what feels like maybe 15 minutes, and I shit you not, the time glitches again. We pull up at her house at 4:41 a.m. We walk into the house, everything is silent. Jocelyn's ex-wife is already waiting for her in the car asleep with the baby. And Catherine's boyfriend is upstairs asleep. Lights are off, it's silent. Me and Jocelyn are waiting for Catherine in the kitchen because Catherine's like, at this point, you know, everything's been so weird tonight. I'm just going to stay the night at your house. I'm like, okay, that's fine. She goes upstairs to pack a bag. Me and Jocelyn are simultaneously watching the time on the oven. It goes from 4:42 to 4:44. It skipped 4:43. And we both looked at each other and we're like, you saw that too?
Catherine runs downstairs and she's like, we need to get out of here. We need to get out of here now. I don't know who was in his body, but that is not him. His energy is so ominous. I'm scared. We need to get out of here now. And we're like, okay. And we run outside. Jocelyn gets in the car with her ex-wife. Catherine comes home with me. We never really speak of it again, but all three of us saw what happened when our reality glitched before our eyes multiple times that night and quite literally looked like we were in the Upside Down from Stranger Things. So that was the story time of the time me and my friends got caught in an alternate reality in a time loop. Anyways, if you like stories like this, go ahead and give me a little follow because I'm making a whole series of my hauntings and it has been happening since I was very young. So I've got stories on stories on stories. All right. Bye, guys. Did her boyfriend's soul ever return or did he stay possessed? My friends and I got stuck in a time loop part 3 because I left y'all on a cliffhanger. Every time I try and tell this story, I get a ringing in my ear that feels like a warning sign that I shouldn't be talking about it. So I'm going to tell this story with the details that feel safe to share. And I'm going to try and answer your questions the best that I can. To understand how we even got to this point, you would have to have some backstory. In 2020, I started getting really interested in spiritual practices again and learning more about them. But in 2021, I actually started to incorporate and use them. Now, here's the thing. I've always been very tuned and tapped and turned onto the divine. I've been able to astral project. I've seen so many things that were supernatural, both scary and beautiful, that I kind of felt like a pro. I didn't really feel like I needed to learn very much about like spiritual protection. I was like, yeah, you know, sage. So I got really good at tarot really quickly. So I started doing tarot readings for all of my coworkers in the place that we would call the barn. I was opening a portal without protecting me or the person I was opening the portal for. And I thought I was just letting in spirit guides, but I was opening that portal to anything on the other side that could hear me. And here's the thing about the barn. The restaurant we worked in was built like 50 years prior. And we had a lot of old antiques that decorated the barn that were like Native American tribal antiques and just a lot of things that you would kind of think might be a little haunted. We would all notice that there was definitely something that lived in that restaurant. It would be pitch black dark at night and we would all be hearing our names being called and we turn around and there'd be nothing there. The energy that lived in that restaurant was so strong that you could feel its presence when it was there. Me and the girlies who were experiencing these hauntings had a little group text, and Catherine shared this to the group chat. Even though this didn't happen at our location, it's interesting because after all the portals have been opened, this still happened to her while she was in a different location alone. This part is going to be hard to tell without detail, but basically how this all connects back to Catherine is there was this one new person that started working at our job, and there was just this energy that shifted the place after this person started working here. And we would often find this person sitting in the barn in the dark with all the lights off talking to himself. This was after I was opening up all of these portals in the restaurant. We notice a pattern. Every time there are 3 of us together is when we feel some type of spiritual warfare or spiritual attack when this person is around. I'm trying to skip everything else because the way that the energy just does not feel safe. The day before she invites me and Jocelyn over, she tells me she is scared because she woke up on her couch the night before. She had seen her boyfriend standing over her with something behind his back, and she freaked out and asked him what he was holding behind his back. And he seemed like he was in a trance, didn't even seem like it was him. And as soon as it clicked to him that she asked him what he had behind his back, he just walked backwards and walked back up the stairs and never showed her what was behind his back. This is why she had asked me and Jocelyn to come over the next day, because she was a little bit afraid, not of her boyfriend because she knew it wasn't his energy, but of something that had infiltrated into her house that she felt like had the power to possess or partly possess her partner. I can't run through every detail of every story. It would take far too long. But basically, some of the things that happened in the midst of me reading tarot in the barn for coworkers over the weeks were me having to perform what I would call a mini exorcism on one of the coworkers that I was doing a reading for because she felt like something was trying to take her over. We experienced the time loop within that frame after I gave one of my coworker protection crystals because she had been feeling kind of scared at work. She got sleep paralysis that night, and I just, being so spiritually immature, I know I should have known better, but I just didn't. I thought I was like cool and protected. I brought a literal entity home with me that I didn't see and know was there.
But my neighbor told me as she was walking past my apartment, she thought I got together with my ex because she saw a woman with long black hair standing there staring at my bed and talking to somebody who was sitting on my bed. One, I hadn't been in my bedroom. I had only been in my spare room. And two, I was alone in that apartment. I had also done a tarot reading with one of my other coworkers. And when she went home that night, she said she heard her son calling her name from the garage. And when she went to go check, there was nobody there, but there was just 3 random pencils lined up that freaked her out so badly. She asked her children if they did it. And they said they had not even been awake. And she was like, no, you were screaming my name, blah, blah, blah. So she called me to ask about that because it was after we did our tarot reading.
As far as what happened to Catherine's boyfriend, basically he was fine after that. Everything was normal, and I don't think she ever talked to him about it because I think she told me she didn't, but I could be misquoting that because it was a while ago and I did forget a lot of the details. And as I was telling the story today, I started remembering a lot of them, which again, hard to sort through. As I told you, I don't want to add a lot of details to this story, but yeah, her boyfriend went back to normal. Like, they're good. They're good. But yeah. It was a spooky time. Deja vu is actually just the sudden realization that time is not linear. Everything that has ever or will ever happen is all happening right now. The past, the present, and the future are always happening simultaneously. And because of that, when you experience deja vu and you say something like, whoa, I've been here before, it's because you literally have. At one point, this was your future, but you were already living in that timeline. And now that you're here again and you're saying the same sentence or around that same person and you're like, wait, this is all too familiar. It's because you've already been there before. Everything you want already exists. You just have to figure out how to align to that timeline. Time does not go in chronological order. It is not linear. It is all happening at the same time, here and now. This is why once you start learning how to truly manifest or create your own reality, you start learning how to quantum leap, which is essentially the version of time traveling that does not require a time machine. If you're fully aware that the version of you that you want to align to already exists, you just have to figure out how to get there. Literally all you do is play house. You start putting yourself in the energy of what that person would do, say, think, and you will wake up the next day in a reality that seems almost exactly similar, but you have shifted timelines. You have time traveled to a reality that is more aligned with what you're looking for in that moment. Deja vu is a sudden realization that time is not linear.
Did I just wake up in a freaking Marvel movie? Like, proof that the multiverse exists as told by scientists? This is getting way out of hand. Completely out of hand. Multiverse? Like, listen, I get it. There's a bunch of weird shit going on in the world. I'm not the only one that sees this, but who in their right mind believes that there's multiverses? We can't even admit to aliens and we know they're fucking visiting. Like, how is there multiverses but no aliens? If there's multiverses, then that would say that there's other beings in other universes, which means that it's a real good possibility that there's freaking aliens. How hard is this to grasp? Multiverses. I feel like fucking Iron Man.
If you don't like crazy stories or diving down into a rabbit hole, keep scrolling. This video is not for you. But if you are, I'm going to tell you the crazy experience I had this morning when I tried to astral project. Now, lately, whenever I try to astral project, I end up just quantum leaping into an alternative timeline. I'm going to call them ATs for short here. I jump into an AT and I explore. Usually when I go into an AT, I'm always curious as to what this timeline's version of husband is doing in those timelines. So that's exactly what I did. I went searching for that guy and I found him. And I walked up to him and I introduced myself. I said, hello. And he, exchanged quick pleasantries. And he asked me, like, who are you? And I told him, I was like, you're never going to believe me if I told you. And he was like, he looked at me intrigued and he said, try me. Who are you? And I told him, I am from the year 2023. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You are not supposed to tell anybody the time that you are from. None of that. The gatekeepers don't like it. And that's exactly what happened. There were 2 gatekeepers nearby. They heard it. They gave me this shocked, crazy look of like, oh shit. And of course, they said something in their little ear speakers, walkie-talkie things. And then they started coming towards me and tried to grab me so that they can clean up the timeline. And this is the first time that I've done this. Normally I run and get out of it. But this time I looked at them and I said, no. I am here for a reason and a purpose. Leave me alone. Go away. And they freaking did. What? I didn't know you could just command them to do that shit. I did it one other time before, but I just thought that was like a fluke thing with that one gatekeeper. But anyways, so then I continued my conversation with him and we sat down and I told him, I was like, in my timeline, you're my husband. I'm your wife. And then all of a sudden, my youngest son was sleeping in bed with me. So I felt him moving and then I felt that energy starting to pull and I started to like dematerialize in that time zone. And I told him, I can't stay. It's not, the energy is not stable, but I will be back. I will find you again. I quickly shot back into my body and then my son was still asleep. So I was like, okay, go back. So then I immediately, and a lot quicker than the first time, went back into the quantum jumping, went right back to that place and then found him again. It took me a minute. I had to walk around, but I found some people walking towards like this restaurant. So I walked towards that area and I found him. I saw his head and I shouted his name and he was like, actually, my name is Doug. And I was like, your name is totally different than what it is in my timeline, but it was really fascinating. He gave me a hug when I saw him again, and I meant to ask him how much time had lapsed since the last time I had been there, but time ran out, just like now. If you're into crazy stories that dive deep into a rabbit hole of quantum physics and strange phenomenon and paranormal experiences, this story is for you. If you don't like paranormal experiences, scroll on, it's okay. Well, earlier this month, I posted a story about an experience that I had where I went into an alternate timeline and I was able to visit with this timeline's version of my husband, but that person in that timeline that we had never met in that timeline. It was a very fascinating story. If you haven't already watched it, go to my profile and watch that story. But it took a while because it's very difficult sometimes to quantum leap, astral project, some of those things, because you have to be in the right energy, in the right space for it. And this has been an incredibly busy month for me. But I was able to go back. And it was very fascinating because one of the questions that I really wanted to know was, what time was it in that timeline? So when I went back, I was walking around trying to find Doug again. And it was a pretty desolate time. There was nobody walking around compared to the first time when there were people walking around. It was in the evening and they were all going to different places like restaurants and so forth. This time, there wasn't that many people out and about. I thought it was very strange, but I was walking around trying to absorb the scenery and trying to take an account of where I was. The houses looked somewhat similar to our homes, a little bit different in feel. And there was this huge hill that had this ginormous building structure on top with these side panels creating the wall. And each side panel was, I don't know, they were blue on like about half of the building, and then the other half, it was black. But you could tell that they were like LED screens that made up the entire wall. It was very odd. I had never seen anything like that before, but I remembered that distinctly. And we'll come back to that building later in the story. So eventually I started to hear some loud noises, people, and I followed the sounds, and then I found a group, everybody was gathered around this main road. It was kind of like there was a parade or something going on. So I was standing around, looking around, hoping that maybe I could find Doug. And sure enough, after a couple of minutes, I did see Doug walking down the road with, I would assume, was his group of friends. I shouted at him and he came over, said hi, and they seemed really jazzed and really excited because whatever they were celebrating, it was a good thing. But we were able to hang out and chat for a few minutes. His friends were there and they didn't seem surprised at all by me. He told them that I was from the year 2023, or so I claimed, the last time that I visited, and told them the story about it. Now, they didn't seem surprised by this, so it gave me the impression that quantum jumping wasn't a new thing for them. But I remembered in the middle of the conversation, I stopped and I said, oh, wait, I wanted to ask, what time are you in? And they said, Beltrix. And I was like, no, Doug, like, what month, day, and year? Like, what time are we in? And he said, we just call it Beltrix. And I'd never heard of this before. And I was like, okay. And I made a mental note to myself, like, figure it out. Like, I need to do some research on this because I don't know what that means. Now, when I went and did research on this, Beltrix actually turned out to be the third brightest star in the Orion system. I was floored. I still need to learn more about this system and Beltrix specifically, but it was fascinating. This is what it looks like. And then I had asked him, I was like, so what do you experience when I come in and out of this place? Like, do I just materialize? Like, I don't know if I'm embodying somebody else or like what happens. And he said, well, last time he just looked away for a second and then turned back and I was gone. And so I don't know if that is the process that whenever we materialize or come into a new timeline, that somebody is distracted for whatever reason by whatever thing, so that they can't see it happening. Or if it is the process of us embodying our physical version of ourselves in that timeline. I'm still not sure about how this all works. Anyways, it was really interesting, and we got into the conversation of what was going on, why everybody was so hyped up, and what they were celebrating. And it turns out that their town, their world, was shifting from the traditional energy source, which was similar to what we use, right? Like a crude energy source where we get oil and dig up all of that crap from the earth. They seem to be really excited about the fact that they are transitioning from earth energy to more of like a sustainable energy source that's not going to cause any damage to their planet anymore. And they were all walking down the road going towards the pier. And the pier, we were looking around and there was this guy coming in a boat. And I guess this was the very last boat that they were using to mine some of the oil that they were using for fuel and electricity. So when that happened, then there was a panel on that building from the first half of the story that changed from black to blue. And I guess what it is every single panel represents a city or town. And whenever they transition and stop using the traditional set of oil and fuel and move to this new sustainable energy, that panel turns blue. So eventually the entire building would turn blue. But this was a monumental event for this planet. And it seemed like a really good experience. But it was pretty exciting to be part of that energy and that vibration because you could feel the collective excitement of everybody having made such a powerful impact in the wellness of their planet for the sake of their planet, knowing that it's a ripple effect and will affect them and their lives. So it was a really interesting story. I didn't get to stay long because like I said, I do this in the mornings during nap time. And then I had about an hour to do it. So hope this was interesting to you. Let me know if there are any other questions that I should ask if I do ever go back, and follow for more because I will be sharing more of my astral projection stories, quantum stories, and paranormal experiences, as well as sharing some helpful tips on how you can develop your psychic abilities and transform your life to manifest the life and experiences that you truly desire to live.
Hey, Sugarfoots. All right, so I was scrolling down my timeline, and I came across this story right here. So this story was about a woman who went to sleep with her husband, her 2 dogs. When she woke up, she was next to an ex in bed, and she knew like something wasn't right. And so she told the ex, she's like, what are you doing here, and where's my husband? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Turn back around. And she's like, rude. Anyways, they didn't really like each other like that, but apparently they did because they're in bed together, and she wasn't at her house and she doesn't know what happened. So then she calls her best friend. She's like, bestie, what is going on? And where's Jeffrey? And she's like, who's Jeffrey? And she's like, my husband. And she's like, girl, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. So then she's like, okay, I know I'm not tripping. I need to find my man. So she go ahead and she hires a private investigator. And she's like, here, this is his name. This is his Jeffrey. I need you to find my husband, okay? And so he's like, I got you. So he goes and looks. He finds all the information. He comes back to her. He's like, you sure? Like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. Why? Is something wrong with him? Did something happen to Jeff? And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to give you this information right here. So she shoots him over his, like, address and everything, right? So she's like, yes, I'm about to go get my man. He going to look at me, and he going to know I'm his and he's mine, right? So she knocks on the door. This big old buff guy opens the door, and he's like, hello? And she's like, hi, I came here because my husband, Jeffrey, he lives here. And he's like, excuse me, what do you mean your husband, Jeffrey? She's like, yeah, you know my husband? He's like, sweetie, that is not your husband. Jeffrey is my husband. Who are you? And she's like, no, that's my man. So they have this whole the boy is mine moment, Brandy and Monica, you know? And then Jeffrey comes to the door, and she said Jeffrey is a very like gym rat built man. You know what I'm saying? He looks like she said like a mob, something. I don't know, but she said, but that's just a look. Anyway, so then he comes to the door, and he got on a shirt, and it got flowers on it. And she's like, why is my man wearing flowers? And he's like, honey, hello, how can I help you? And she's like, it's me. Remember me? Smell my hand. And he's like, And so he don't remember her, right? Because he don't know her. And so then him and his husband is looking at her up and down. And he's like, honey, come in. And he offers her a drink because he's like, child, you need this more than me. You know what I'm saying? And so now she's sitting up there with her man and her man's man. And they're eating crumpets and tea. Okay, I don't know if that was their eating, but it just sounded right. Anyway, so they're eating and taking anyways, okay, so that happened, right? And if y'all don't know me, hi, I'm Michelle Stacks Doss. I am the one who went viral for probably over half of the world thinking I was crazy because I explained how I went to sleep with myself and my 2 children, and then I woke up. And when I woke up, I was 10 again in my mama's bed. And when I opened my door and I looked across the hallway, my sister was there, my deceased sister, right? And the gag is, it all happened again. So that's me. If you haven't met me, nice to meet you. Anyway, so when you told your story, girl, I automatically was like, I know what she's talking about. Because first thing you said was, the atmosphere felt different. Child, that's what happened to me. I knew I wasn't at my house. I was next to somebody, but it wasn't like a danger or a fear. It was someone that I knew. Like I knew them. I couldn't see because my mama keeps her whole house dark. Well, at night when she's trying to sleep, in the daytime, you can't even see your hand in her room. Anyways, so I go and I open the door and I see my sister. But when you said the atmosphere was different, I knew immediately that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So I wanted to tell you, girl, you was not dreaming. That wasn't a dream. After I posted my story, and half of the people said I probably had schizophrenia. I don't. But after I posted my story, I went down this rabbit hole of parallel universes, astral projection, alternate universes. So that's what I think happened to you. I think you shifted into an alternate parallel universe where I think each of our decisions that we make are on another parallel, on another plane, happening spontaneously at the same time as what we have going on. Anyways, so I believe you shifted, and it could have been in the form of, it seemed like a dream, but that was real because you felt you were able to call on your phone, and you had all these things let me know that, girl, that was just a different universe, parallel universe. So welcome to that. But if you haven't been on my page, y'all go look. I need to revamp the story because that was back when TikTok only let us do 3 minutes. And so I got more parts to that than Risa Tisa does. So I need to go back and redo that and make it so it's not so hard. And that was like my first time ever having to do like a series. This is before like story time and series was really out like that. So I'm thinking about revamping it. But I just want to say, hey, girl, welcome to the I woke up and I wasn't where I thought I was club.
I'm tweaking out. This shirt says Coca-Cola in English, right? So it's a bad photo, but it's the only one I have. You can clearly see that the shirt has Hebrew letters. I bought it in Israel, which is why it's in Hebrew. So on this day, April 14th, 2023, I put it in the washing machine in Hebrew, and it came out in English. Someone please tell me if we just went through a portal, if like astrology girls, please help me out, like what's going on?
Didn't that man die like a long time ago? Like they perhaps a heart attack, maybe something like that. Like he used to play on Roseanne, and they, the man that used to play on Roseanne is not dead, because I specifically remember him dying. Am I the only person? At this point, you know?
This one is called I Died and Came Back to an Alternate Universe. Hey, Matrix. Hi! This is a bit of a long one. This happened in 2018, and it is by far the scariest, craziest experience I ever had in my life. I truly thought I was losing my mind, and it was little things that accumulated over a short period of time that convinced me I died and came back in an alternate universe. I always thought about the multiverse theory growing up, but I never imagined I would experience it firsthand. One day I was at a woman's apartment that I didn't know very well. I remember getting into an argument with her over something small, and she threatened to, shoot me. I remember calling my mom while having a panic attack and telling her I needed her to come get me immediately because I was terrified and this woman was threatening to kill me. She was at work and said she couldn't get to me until she got off of work, and the woman I was with apologized and told me to come back into the apartment and wait for my mom. I didn't hang with the best crowd when I was in my early 20s, and I don't remember what happened after she gave me some food to eat and something to drink. This was around 8 to 9 a.m. Around 6:30 p.m., I woke up in the hallway of her apartment building with only my phone that had less than 10% battery on it, no ID, and about $10. No idea how I got there. I tried finding the woman's apartment to find out what happened, why I passed out in her hallway alone, but I called my mom again and begged her to come because my phone was almost dead and I was stranded without my car. Sounds like she drugged you. I was so confused and disoriented, and after that day, I started noticing huge differences in my life. I tried going to a gas station I went to for years, down the street from my parents' home, but it wasn't there, and neither was the Ulta store next door. It was on the opposite side of the highway. I was so confused because I grew up in the city and I knew all the street names, so it made no sense to me. Even my Google Maps said it was where I thought it was until I got to the light, and then it disappeared and told me to go to right across the highway. That previous day, I remember going into my bedroom and nothing was right/in the place I knew they were supposed to be in. The light switch was on a different wall, the outlets were in different spots. This also made me panic because, again, I grew up in this house. My family would always say I had baby feet because I wore a size 5 and could fit into kids' shoes even at 20 to 21. And about a week later, an old friend of mine brought me some Nike shoes that didn't fit her, that were a size 8. And I laughed when she gave them to me and said that they would be way too big because I wore a size 5 in Nikes. Nope, I was wrong. I wore a size 8, and my parents said I always wore a size 7 or 8 and that my sister was the one with the baby feet. Even the moon looked different. I would spend every night looking up at the sky trying to see if I could spot UFOs and constellations like the Big and Little Dipper lying in the trunk of my dad's car growing up in front of our house. I even have memories of trips to New York and seeing the Statue of Liberty and going all the way to the top only to see the photos were gone, and my parents telling me we never went up the day we visited and that people weren't allowed to go up to that area for decades now. Both my parents are history majors, and I loved history as well. I remember learning about the Lindbergh baby, how he was kidnapped and never found, and that decades later people were claiming that they were the missing child, and learning about it my senior year of high school in 2014. I remember thinking how awful it must have been not to know where your baby was for decades, and then I found out that he was found soon after and the kidnapper was caught. This is when I kind of lost my cool. I broke down to my mom and dad about what was going on. My mom looked at me like I was insane, but my dad believed me. He said something very similar happened to him when he got into a motorcycle accident in his early 20s, where one of his best friends died and he almost died as well. I still have the messages between me and my dad the day that I told him about all of this, and his messages were so reassuring. He told me even if I did in fact die in another reality, that I've been given another chance in this one and to make the best out of it, which I intend to do 100%. Now I have a wonderful husband and a daughter, but man, does it freak me out when I stop and think about all the different things and my memories that are so vivid in my mind that never happened. Another weird thing is I used to have a great memory, but I feel like my memories from before that date fade more and more every day, almost as if my life hit the restart button hard that day in 2018 and wiped out a lot of the past except for a few things. I even tried finding my high school boyfriend, and it's like he never existed, even though my parents remember him, but there's no trace of him anywhere. It's all very weird and scary and definitely feels like a huge glitch in the Matrix. That's my world. Yes, I definitely agree that this is a case of quantum immortality, that you did die that day and you hopped over into a very similar nearby timeline. What things are different? I guess it wasn't close enough for it to seem like nothing happened. Like it was far away enough where things were different enough where you were noticing them. And that has to be really scary. But I'm so glad that your dad actually went through the same thing and he could reassure you that that probably is what happened, but just like make the best out of your life. I'm so happy that you had your dad for that. Well, it sounds like you're enjoying your life in this timeline. So welcome to this timeline and thank you so much for sharing your story. This one is called
This video is meant to be for entertainment purposes only. It's only a theory proposed by astrophysicists and quantum mechanics called quantum immortality. Keep an open mind and check it out. Let me know what you think. Okay, so what is quantum immortality? And how many of you will even have an open mind enough to give this theory a chance or believe in it in the slightest? Me, myself, I truly believe I've been dealing with this since I was a teenager, but I'll get into that here in a minute. Quantum immortality is a theory proposed by astrophysicists and quantum mechanics that states when we die, our conscience transfers to another reality and continues on. But you would never perceive that death. You would just wake up from a dream, continue about your day. But sadly, your family and loved ones would know you as dead in their reality. In your new reality, there will be slight differences, such as what they say where deja vu and the Mandela effect comes from. Okay, so back to why I originally started this video. I feel like I've been dealing with this for years, and my first feeling of thinking that I possibly died was in 2008 when I was 18. I had just got my license. I was only driving for about a month. It was about 3 a.m. and I was leaving a friend's house. I was sober though. So I'm driving down the road and I see this red flashing light. Mind you, there's no cars on the road at all. I'm pulling up, thinking in my mind, do I gotta stop or just yield or what? And it hit me at the last second that it's a yellow light that you do a yield and caution, look both ways. So I decided to stop. As I chose to stop at that four-way, a semi come flying through with no back trailer park, but just the front, doing probably 30, 40 miles an hour. And it would have hit me directly. It would have collided with me perfectly on point. And I'll never forget thinking, out of all the last 5 minutes that went by and I ain't seen no vehicles, that truck just so happened to be right there and would have ended my life. And I was sitting there thinking about how creepy it was that split second choice made me think that. Well, now that I've recently learned about quantum immortality, I've been thinking, what if there was a timeline where I did decide to keep going and die? My second experience was in 2011. I actually posted another video about this on my story times. And I was drinking with some friends who was in the gated community. We was going to leave. My buddy didn't realize we were still in the gated community. We had the music up. He was wearing sunglasses, dancing, whatnot. I put my seatbelt on, told him to do that, reminded him we was in a gated community. He went to put his seatbelt on, lost control of the car, doing about 30. We fishtailed, we hit a big ass oak tree. I seen a big bright flash. Airbag went off, knocked me out for about 5 seconds. Woke up to the horn blaring, smoke filling up the car under the stereo, for coming out from under the stereo. People were screaming, calling 911, filming it. The cops came, ambulance came. They had to use the jaws of life to open up his side. He slept for that whole night. He didn't wake up till the following morning. It was a whole ordeal. And I remember laying in my bed thinking, when that airbag went off and we hit that tree, did I die and wake up and just continue going? But at that time, I didn't even know what quantum immortality was. And it was still in the back of my mind thinking, like, once again, is there a timeline where I died and instead just happened to survive in this timeline? My third experience, I was going through a lot of mental health stuff, substance and alcohol abuse. I had known I was coming up on a court date, going to prison soon. I started using again, and I ended up waking up in a hospital to them telling me that they almost lost me. And I'll never forget waking up thinking how nothing was the same. My handwriting was different, my personality was different, my memories was different. I've been with the same woman for 18 years. We got 3 kids. We're very close. To this day, I say things to her that makes me wonder how she thinks of things differently and remembers things differently. And to be 100% honest, the closest people to me sometimes do not feel like the exact same people that they once were, almost like they're clones or something. I mean, I love them very much. They're still my family, but it's just something is not right. It's like I'm in a different timeline with a different version of everybody that I still know and still love, but it's just not the same. So that was my other experience right there. I feel like I actually died to where my family would have had to go to my funeral and everything in that reality when I would have been found dead. But in to my consciousness, I was able to just wake up and continue on in another timeline. This last experience has happened in the last 7 months since I've been home. The whole time I've been home, I've been in recovery though, so it wasn't nothing that could have put my life at risk like before. It was possibly something that I could have did to myself. I was going through more mental health stuff. I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and night terrors, given medication from a psychiatrist. Well, I was thinking about unaliving myself because I felt like the whole world was just crashing down on me, and I just couldn't cope with feeling like everything is so different, and plus transitioning from coming home from prison. Things me and my girl was going through and whatnot. Well, the idea that I had when I had that stupid thought, it would have been a fast experience. I'll just put it that way. It would have been something that I probably wouldn't even have realized I did. It would have been so fast. Well, the last thing I remember was thinking those bad, evil thoughts. And then I woke up on the couch at 4 a.m. I was confused. Now, when I sat up, I felt like everything around me just kind of faded into a reality, like Matrix or something. But that, you could say that's just because I was tired and waking up. That makes sense. But when I went upstairs and woke my girl up at 4 a.m. and I said, babe, what's going on? Like, what happened last night and why am I on the couch? She's like, oh, I came home and you look so peaceful sleeping. I just let you sleep. So I started apologizing about the night before, telling her sorry that I said what I said and this and that. And she literally said that none of it happened, that I dreamed it all, that I concocted it in my imagination dreaming or whatever. That blew me away thinking about that, because I'm sitting there like not understanding how she's saying that none of that happened, but I know I remembered it. And they also say with quantum immortality, you will have like a little bit of a time gap, which gives the universe enough time to put things together, strings of code and whatever, to make your next reality exactly the same. And they say that you will have just this little bit of amnesia where you just kind of don't remember, but then you snap into it. I'm not sure, y'all. Like, I didn't make this theory up. This is something that astrophysicists truly believe. I want to say Neil deGrasse Tyson is one of them who stands by this, and Elon Musk believes that we live in a simulated matrix. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe this stuff isn't real. But then again, this could explain why we don't know anything about death and why people say certain things about near-death experiences. If you look this stuff up, there's millions of people, if not more, in the world who stand by this and believe in this from their own experiences. So I'm open to people telling me what they think. Constructive criticism is cool. Let me know if you've experienced anything like this or if you believe it's possible. If anyone comments or says any dumb shit, though, I'm just gonna ignore you. But I am open to people giving me their unfiltered, unsugar-coated opinion. That's cool. I know what I feel that is, I truly believe. So everybody's entitled to their own opinion either way. But everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, stay free. God bless. And I understand that a lot of people are gonna just say I'm crazy. I've been told that a lot in my life. Just like when I've told people about some of my dreams I have where I feel like I float from my body, also known as astral projection, out-of-body experiences. I stop telling people when I have dreams like that because sometimes I wake up and I'm conscious in another place, but I know that I'm sleeping in my bed and I'm able to move around freely and do certain things, but I can never hang on to it that long and it usually goes away.
The ice cream truck obviously has those little popsicles with the different characters. Yeah. Which characters do you remember?
Spider-Man, SpongeBob, Dora.
Do you remember like the Boots popsicle?
I don't remember a Boots popsicle. It's only because I've never like got the Boots popsicle. I just usually just get the SpongeBob one or the Spider-Man one.
That's basically the whole Mandela effect. So apparently there was never any Boots popsicle ever. But I remember there being a Boots popsicle, bro.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember it being right next to the Dora one.
Well, I mean, that would make sense. Not gonna lie. Pull it up. Let me see how it looks. What the?
You can't tell me that shit wasn't there, bro. But apparently that shit never existed, bro.
Was there ever a Sonic one?
Yeah, there was.
Right?
There's a Sonic one.
Was there a Hulk? I think I remember seeing Hulk before.
There's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Powerpuff Girls.
You got me really fucked up. You got me really fucked up. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna wait until the picture pops up so I can explain. There was a Boots popsicle and it tasted like fucking banana. I remember the taste of it like I tasted this shit yesterday. It tasted like fucking banana. It existed. I refuse to believe that there was not a Boots one. I refuse to believe there was not a Boots one. There was a Boots fucking popsicle.
Let's end this Boots popsicle debate.
My husband and I are on two different timelines, I think. Or we were at some point. Let me explain. First, I started this account a couple weeks ago because I've always had an interest in haunted places, ghosts, conspiracy theories, stuff like that. And I just wanted a different place to talk about it than my main account because I didn't feel like the vast majority of the information belonged on my main account. So I might do a little bit over there. I might not. I don't know. Anyway, yesterday we took our kids and our oldest, a friend of our oldest, to an amusement park. And I have, if you know me, I have a lot of anxiety and I struggle a lot sometimes with going someplace new, not knowing what to expect, especially if I'm already overwhelmed with things in my life, and I am right now. So really bad anxiety. And he was trying to get to the root of my anxiety the other night before we went. And I was like, it's just because it's someplace new. I've never been there before. And he's like, you've been there before. And I'm like, no, I haven't. I have never been there. I have no memory of ever being there. But he vividly remembers and recounted a conversation we had while we were there and went into detail about things that we did while we were there. So much so that these are things that like he would not have if we had not been there together before. But even when I got there, because I kept thinking to myself, well, maybe we had and I just don't remember, got there, never been there a day in my life. And before anybody even says anything, no, he wasn't there with somebody else. This isn't one of those things. Don't go in my comments with that crap either. Kept making the joke to him that we must be on different timelines or had been on different timelines at some point because I have no memory whatsoever being there. And I just can't explain it. I cannot explain it, but the conversation that he described, the things that we did were so detailed. There's no other explanation that he really, it isn't even something so much that like he would have dreamt it. So I am very curious to know if anybody else has ever experienced this, where one person, like your spouse, your significant other, even a close friend or family member, vividly remembers something happening involving you, but you have no memory of it, or the other way around. So I'm curious if that's ever happened to you. So if so, I'd love to hear. Please share. Let me know I'm not alone.
So if you're seeing this video, you died. You went through a near-death experience or something like that, and you actually died. You are now in a parallel reality, a parallel universe, because you wanted to continue to live. So you jump to another parallel reality where it's very, very similar. Only few differences. The only difference is that you actually died, and some of you could have died from another person even. But some of you chose not to remember it so you can continue with your purpose. Your purpose is still the same. Your mission is still the same. Although you might even tell that you feel a little bit different. And you feel different because you did go into another reality. Some of you have done this more than once and you just kept going into parallel realities. Some of you went into a higher reality. Others of you could have went into a lower reality just because the stun of how you died could have made you go into a lower reality. But you can timeline shift at any moment, or parallel jump at any moment into another universe. It doesn't have to be just when you die, right? But I don't know, I just felt like this message is for who it's supposed to be for. This is someone that either got really sick, some of you overdosed, some of you died due to another person. Totally different ways that you've died, okay? But it seems like you had like a lucky break. You didn't actually have a lucky break. You actually really died, and you're in a parallel reality right now. So this is your message. Of course, use your discernment and live out that purpose, because obviously you keep choosing to be here for a reason. So do what you have to do.
Someone has clearly been editing Lilo and Stitch, because this is the version of Lilo and Stitch I have where she clearly hides in a dryer. She is not in a cabinet with a pizza box on it. So I think someone's done some clever editing. Someone has clearly been editing.
If you plan on sleeping tonight, please don't watch this. Also, if you just smoked a large bowl of cereal, please don't watch this. Put it in your saved folders for later, when you got time. Because you're going to need a lot of time to think about stuff. Because this is about to fuck your whole world up. Okay, so one thing we need to be honest about as a species is that we don't really understand death, or if it even happens at all. And I know what you're thinking, sure we do, we bury them, there's plenty of dead people, but we don't really know what happens or where that person or their consciousness went. But science has a lot of weird discoveries that might all add up with the advancement of technology and might give us some answers as to what happens after we die. And we're throwing around this idea of uploading our consciousness to the cloud and downloading it back into a new body or a cloned body or a robot. What if that's what we're doing? What if that's what the person who died, what if that's what they did? A lot of us are also considering the idea that reality might be a highly intelligent virtual reality simulation. So if it's highly advanced technology, wouldn't it be something that works a little bit like uploading your mind to a cloud and downloading it back instantly? You're not doing it, it's highly advanced technology, it's all automatic. And also parallel universes is a thing, but why? That could explain where the consciousness goes. You see, you don't die, but maybe in this lifetime you didn't quite make it, you weren't really going anywhere. So you transferred over into a parallel universe and kept going. If this is a simulation, we're inputting data here to try and find out the outcome. And if the simulation is giving us nothing, we might as well transfer over into another simulation in another parallel universe. So what I'm saying is that in the future, when we experience virtual reality simulations that are so close to reality that that's what we understand that reality really is, and when we start to uploading our minds to the cloud and re-downloading them down into a highly advanced robotic structure or another cloned body, are we going to understand that there is no such thing as death? Are we going to be able to transfer our minds over into a parallel universe? Because dying and chilling in the clouds with Jesus doesn't make any sense. Doesn't really solve anything or have a purpose. But transferring into a universe until you keep going until you ascend and figure out the question of all questions, which is what you're here to do, who am I, makes a lot more sense. So there's no such thing as death, possibly. They just transferred over into a parallel universe and kept going. Bon voyage, see you on the other side. If you watch this before bed, I warned you. Good night.
Y'all heard about the Reddit lamp story? Don't worry, I got you all covered. So this guy he went to college and he was on campus and he got into a little scuffle, a little altercation with a guy from the football team, and that guy knocked the Mario coins out of his head and he passed out. Anyways, let's fast forward it to 10 years. He's married. He found the perfect wife. They had a little girl. Next thing you know, he always wanted a boy. They had a little boy. He had the perfect job, right? And so every night he would go and he would read a story to his little boy every night. And he just was so in love with his family, right? So it was a perfect life until one day he sat down and he noticed that the lamp in his living room looked weird. So he asked his wife, he's like, hey, does this look different to you? She's like, nah, look like the same old lamp I always seen. So anyways, he's so fixated on this lamp because he's like, something's not right with this lamp. So he goes into like a whole spiral where he's no longer reading to his kids. He's no longer so engaged as a family man, but instead he keeps looking at this light. So the wife's like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. If you love the light so much, how about you marry the light? Okay, how about you, Sean Paul? Give me the light on you and yourself, okay? So anyways, he's looking at the lamp and he finally says, I get it. The lamp ain't real. So he realizes the lamp isn't real. Next thing you know, he spirals to being, all of a sudden he sees like this big old light. And the light is them trying to get him conscious back from when he got passed out, or the Mario coins knocked out his skull from the football player. So the whole time he was unconscious for that little bit of time, he went on 10 years of his life and had this whole story made. So once he came back to being his regular life, he tried to live a regular life. He couldn't. He missed his kids so much. He missed his wife. And so he would try to go to sleep, and he ended up going to like one of the little cuckoo clocks, you know, the little places where the cuckoo people go. He went there, and he missed his family so much that he would go to sleep trying to see them. He said his son comes to him sometimes in his dreams, but the wife and the daughter never does. Isn't that crazy? What y'all think about that story? If you like more stories like this, go ahead and hit that follow button or share. I just went to sleep like a normal day. And when I woke up, I thought I was dreaming. I'm like, okay, this is a dream. Immediately, I knew the atmosphere was different. I was like, this is not my house. Not only that, but it was pitch black and I felt someone next to me, but it wasn't like something alarming. It was someone I know, like a comfortable feeling. And so I'm feeling around the room because, like I said, it's pitch black. And when I open the door, I look across and I see my sister who's deceased across the way, and she's getting ready for school. She's in high school. And one thing I also noticed when I jumped up, my body was light. Like, you know, I have meat on my bones, so, but my body was light. And I'm like, okay. So then I see my sister, I run, I give her a big old hug. But to me, I think I'm dreaming. I've always been able to talk to people in my dreams. So that wasn't nothing new to me to see my sister and to be able to like hug her. And so she's like, get off of me. You're bothered. Like, you know, like the big sister that's irritated with the little sister. And so I'm like, okay. And I also know that in dream world, sometimes it can seem like 2 or 3 days and you've only been asleep for like maybe 5 hours. So this whole time I'm just like, man, I'm just dreaming, you know? So then my mom wakes up. She's like, you're ready for school. Like, what are you doing? And so I'm like, okay, this dream is really going to have me go through the motions. And so I'm thinking I'm dreaming, but it doesn't stop. Like, I go to school, I come back home, and this happens for days. And to the point that I'm like, oh, what? Like, I need my kids to wake me up. Like, they should be hungry by now. Something has to be going on. And to the point, I'm like, I'm not going to wake up. And I remember missing my children so much. Like, it was like a void. You know how something's just missing? It just felt like something was missing. And my partner, I kind of remember having one, but not to the extent of me remembering my kids. And so then I realized I'm not going back. And so at this time, I'm like, oh, goodness, I didn't really take the time to really think everything through because the whole time I thought it was a dream. So I didn't get the time to think about, okay, what was my kid's name? What was anything that was from that universe? I didn't write down because I'm thinking I'm dreaming. But then at that time, I also remember, okay, I'm 10 now. From now to 23, I know for a fact my sister isn't supposed to be here. I know that for a fact. And so I said, okay, now did I come back here to change, to try to see if there's something I can do to prevent this from happening?
Time and time again, science is showing us that there are, in fact, other parallel universes in which you, or should I say yous, are living another life right now as you're living this life in this three-dimensional world. Would you be interested to find out that some of you, if not all of you, is actually living a very empowering life, completely aware that you are connected with the larger living universe and the other yous, plural, that are having this outrageous life of empowerment and freedom? Would you be interested in checking out those dimensions right now in this world? I know I did. And it's fascinating because you can, in fact, bring in the other you that is more empowering, more freeing, more enlightened, into your reality right now and starting to live this world, this lifetime right now. And it starts by simply quieting your mind to raise your frequency and your awareness of a larger world around you. Now, you're always going to hear me talking about meditation being the key to the universe. Let's start at the beginning. What if you were able to just simply sit quietly? Because I hear you when you tell me, Diane, this is kind of hard for me. Let's start at the beginning. Take your index finger and your thumb and just simply feel the difference. Think about your mind, from your mind, think about your finger, your pointing finger, as being the dominant. Feeling what it feels like to feel your thumb. You feel a little bit of roughness as the fingerprints start to run across one another. Can you feel the energy within you? Feel the calmness. Feel the focus as you simply think about your pointing finger as on your thumb. Now think about it, the same motion, drawing the number 8, which is the infinity sign. Now, if you wish, think about it from the other perspective, from your thumb's perspective of having your pointing finger run across. Can you feel the little greens of your fingerprints? What does it feel like? Because in this simple action, you are in fact having a very mini meditation. Because the whole idea of meditation is not to shut down your mind, but simply bring yourself in the moment. And in that restful place, you can start to experience and allow other areas of your greater life into perspective and start receiving those intuitive messages that start coming to you. Hope that works for you and is helpful to get you on the path of meditation and to discover your greater self. If you're enjoying what you hear, hit like and we'll see you on the next video.
What was The Simpsons trying to tell us about the multiverse? As we lock our eyes on this clip, as they start to zoom out, everything starts to look smaller, right? And smaller. Showing you how really small that you really are. And as they get to zooming out, you're going to see something I find very strange. That's an atom, right? Didn't they show us this too in Ant-Man Quantumania? So above, so to below. As y'all can see, the atoms look like a whole universe, a whole galaxy within itself. And if we think about so above, so to below, and that also will make sense on how all dimensions and realms are intertwined and interconnected with each other. And it also makes sense on how one of your actions can affect multiple different realms and dimensions, as in the universal shockwave.
I am pretty sure that I died in a parallel universe and ended up in a different one. Now, how do I know that? One, I am claircognizant, and I have been my whole life. And so when it was going down, the moment in question, I just had a feeling. I was like, we just died. We are now in a parallel universe. And I've had other instances in my life where I've felt time do weird things or felt I've moved into a parallel universe. One time including where me and my sister said that we crossed over and like changed ages. And we both vividly remember how the universe was different and sort of experienced it in the same way. The clouds were different, a different color, the trees were a different color, etc. And it was only a moment. But so in this instance, the most recent instance, we were driving home from an event, me and my friend, and I somehow ended up on the New Jersey Turnpike. And I was immediately like nervous. It was nighttime. And I was just like, get me off this road ASAP. First of all, I don't belong on the turnpike. It's not the direction I'm going in. Second of all, I don't even want to be there, even if I have to be there. Anyway, but so I was immediately like, get me out of here, direct us to the next exit. She had control over my phone, and we're zooming out. I was like, you know, drop a pin, like pick anywhere that is not this turnpike and get us off of it. But on the map, there was no indication of roads in the surrounding area, and there seemed to be no signage. And that could easily just be a lack of service. In that moment, I was, you know, absolutely not going to mention that I felt like we just died and transferred over, because I'm responsible for our lives, and that's one, a weird thing to say, two, really scary within that moment. But then a couple of weeks later, I was just like, I could not shake the idea. And I was like, can I run this by you? And when I told them, they were like, you know, I kind of feel similarly, not necessarily on the death front, but they definitely felt like time slowed down or time paused in some way. And I've been doing some research in terms of where universes like collide and can cross over each other. And there is that slowdown or pausing of time, that sense of it. But then even more interestingly, my friend was like, that their friend has been telling them, I've been having dreams that you've died, and that no indication of how you died, but that people are mourning your death. And when she said that, or when she told me that story, I was like, that's because maybe your friend can sense the people mourning your death in the universe that we just left. And like I said, since then, I've been doing research as to like what causes that, like what would cause a spirit to transcend a universe or cross universes, etc. And some say it's by choice, which I would understand, because at that moment I was feeling the sensation of it. I knew it was because I was like, no, restart the game. Like, I'm not trying to go back right now. But then, so interestingly, I was looking at my bag earlier today. I have like a cross body bag. And you know the tabs that they have on the zippers to pull open and close, whatever. That tab is so much longer than it's ever been. And I've been trying to find pictures to see if I have it documented anywhere, but I've had this bag for more than a year, 2 years now. And I know my stuff. Like, I know my stuff. The tag went from being this long to being this long. And it now has a W on it. And it's never had that. It's never had that. I also recently discovered a t-shirt that I've also had for a couple years with a new tag. Again, that was not there before. So I've just felt the need to share. I'm not sure if it sounds crazy. I actually don't really care if it does, because too many things have happened in my life that really solidify this for me. So, yeah.
Yes, it's safe to say that that memory came from an alternate you inside an alternate universe, because John Deere always had an X-ray in this timeline. Look.
You abandoned me. Love don't live here anymore. Just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore. You abandoned me. Love don't live here anymore. Just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore.
So my daughter had inherited several books, these Walt Disney books, right? Now these books are more than 40 years old. Okay. Well, so here are the rest of them. And there may be some other Mandela effects that we can debunk on those other books, but let's do this one first. So in my reality, I remember it mirror, mirror on the wall, right? In this reality, it's supposedly magic mirror on the wall. Take a peek at the year 1973, yada, 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 right? Now look for yourselves, guys. Look for yourselves. What do you see there? See? Now, the queen had a magic mirror, right? But when she's asking the mirror, she clearly says, mirror, mirror on the wall. This is how I remember it. And clearly it's on print. It's literally on print. Over 40 years old, this book collection is, okay? Another one is Cinderella. This book is from the same collection, right? In my reality, I remember once she was dressed up in that fancy dress and all that jazz, her choker was just black. Apparently, some folks remember it with a, like her choker being black with like a cameo brooch on it. No, I remember it black. And watch on here. Look, guys. This book is over 40 years old. Boom.
Someone has clearly been editing Lilo and Stitch, because this is the version of Lilo and Stitch I have where she clearly hides in a dryer. She is not in a cabinet with a pizza box on it. So I think someone's done some clever editing.
You're absolutely right. And let me tell you why. Check this out. Hey Siri. How many months to 2022?
It was 7 months and 3 weeks ago.
2022 was 7 months and 3 weeks ago. Saturday, August 19th, 12:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've been getting all the fucked over for years. Biggest experiment in history. I can't believe that this video is trending right now and I made it so long ago, but let's talk about it. So for all those who are counting the amount of months from today or now or August 2024, you are looking at this video all wrong, okay? So this video has nothing to do with math and it has everything to do with quantum leaping, time travel, parallel dimensions, and CERN. If you found the video, it's probably tagged to something about one of those subjects or anything to do with science and time travel, because I am talking about science in this video. At the time that I made the video, CERN had shifted us into a different parallel. At that time, I realized that my pots and pans were different colors. I got heavily into it, and occasionally I would find something different in my household or something in my life would be different. It's not just happening to me. It's happening to everybody. It's not just a me thing. It's just that some of y'all are so ignorant, you don't see it. You don't notice and you don't care. But for those of us who are conscious, who are awakened people, who are in tune with the universe, who are in tune with energy, we see the changes. We notice the changes. I had white pots and pans, and then I come home one day and I don't. My pots and pans are black with fluorescent tops. At first, they were white with fluorescent tops. I mean, little things had shifted in my life. And I mean, occasionally I find some things that are different. You know, have you ever just looked around and you find something missing in your house and you think, did I lose this? Did somebody steal it? It could have been because you shifted into another dimension. Life in the world, the universe, the energy is so much bigger than you think it is. life is so much more complex than you think it is. It's more going on than you getting up going to work every day. There's more going on than what they teach you in your Bibles and in different books. It's a lot going on that you people aren't noticing. You're just going about your life laughing and shit on social media stuff, and there's a lot happening. But it ain't my damn job to teach y'all shit, so